Did you know that Greg Vivino was going to be the guest speaker at a Nazi rally in Portugal today? If not, give this a share and sit down with me and Luthi here while we bird watch on the porch because I've got some things to tell you. Greg Vivino being a guest speaker was just announced on Twitter a couple hours ago, but first let me fill you in on a couple other things he's been up to lately. He gave an interview to a fascist blog in Italy. And I know that I normally give you the sources that I use and try to include the author's name, but I don't platform fascists, so if you really want to find this article on this blog, you're going to have to go find it yourself. There's enough information here for you to do that. Anyway, in that interview, he gave some insight into how ICE was getting its estimates that there were 100 million illegal migrants in the US when he was the head of ICE. Basically, he admits that they measured the decreased commuter traffic once ICE was in a city and just assumed that everyone who stayed home when ICE was around was not there legally. That's right. They decided that because about 30% of people stayed home when ICE was around, for safety reasons, they just decided that roughly 1 in 4 people just was here illegally. These were bogus numbers and they knew it. And they use bogus numbers like this in their propaganda. They put them in their broadcasts and press releases and on social media and had all of their paid influencers parroting these numbers to their followers. They knew these numbers were bullshit. I cannot stress this enough. And by the way, he also used a lot of white supremacist rhetoric in this interview. But that's a thing that I feel like not enough people heard about and should be talking about because that was where they got the number of 100 million, roughly 1 in 4 Americans not belonging here, which is absolute fucking nonsense. Anyway, the same day that that article dropped, he showed up on Twitter, a picture of himself in front of a screen pointing to a flight to Newark, right, to Newark, New Jersey, and talking about the protests that are going on there outside of the Delaney Hall detention facility, saying, "For those of you in the comments section, give a vote. Should I handle this myself? Question mark." And you can argue about this in the comments, but I read this as he wants to know if he should go there and infringe upon people's rights and physically harm them, because that's what he and his ICE agents were doing when he was, the head of ICE, but now he no longer has the ability to legally arrest them, so what else is there other than offering to physically harm people? Anyway, after he posted this tweet, rumors started flying about whether or not he was actually going to Newark, New Jersey. In case you're unaware of what's going on in Newark, New Jersey at Delaney Hall Detention Facility currently, here's a brief rundown. For the last 7 days, so for a whole week now, 300 or so detainees inside of the detention facility have been on strike, both a hunger strike and a work strike. The vast majority of my information here is coming from Talia Jane, the reporter who wrote this article, so go follow her on Blue Sky and definitely give this article a read. The detainees inside maintain that they are being unlawfully held and want to talk to the governor so that they can have their grievances addressed and make sure that vulnerable people like children and the elderly and people with medical conditions can be released. Outside of the detention facility for the last week, there have been round-the-clock 24-hour protests, and there have been a lot of clashes with both GEO Group guards, the facility, right, as well as ICE, and now, as of today, local police. And it's important to know for context that the same day that Greg Pavino made his Twitter post about potentially going to Newark, some awful things were happening in Newark. That day in Newark, ICE started using batons, constantly, and nearly broke the finger of a photojournalist. And that photojournalist had been attacked and injured only 1 day after the ICE agents had pushed protesters off of the sidewalk in front of the detention facility and pushed one of them into an 18-wheeler semi-fucking truck, and his foot ended up getting run over. Now, it was initially reported as his leg, but it turns out it was his foot, and turns out it is not broken, it is just severely damaged and bruised. While I am extremely grateful that both of those people seem to be doing all right and will make a full recovery, it bothers the fuck out of me how both of those situations could have ended far worse. And it was only after that happened in the early morning hours on the 28th that Greg Vivino thought it would be cute to post this tweet. The following day, family members of detainees reported to Talia that detainees were being threatened with charges, criminal charges, if they kept their hunger strike up and refused to eat. And instead of doing something about the inhumane and illegal conditions that these people are being detained under, the local police were sent in to set up a free speech zone far away from the detention facility so that it can operate without, anyone stopping it. The situation in Newark, New Jersey is ongoing, and I'm not there, so definitely go follow Talia on Blue Sky for more updates on that, because she is, and she's on the ground. I brought it up mostly so that you would have full context for that tweet that Greg Bavino made. Anyway, let's get back to him, all right? After Bavino made that tweet, people started wondering about where he was actually going. Was he going to Newark? Was he going somewhere else? And rumors started to fly. An AI flyer even popped up calling for a pro-ICE rally that looked, I agree with Talia here, eerily similar to far-right Zionist AI flyers that have been used in New York City recently. All of these rumors about Bavino showing up in Newark, New Jersey were further fueled on the 28th by a pro-fascist blogger who always just happens to show up at the right place at the right time to catch things on camera that fascists want to be on camera, right? That kind of person. Again, not platforming this person. Posting a video of Greg Bavino showing up at Newark Airport, which was followed an hour later by Greg Bavino himself saying that he showed up at Newark Airport. He also made some weird comments about there being some kind of a silent majority while quote tweeting the video from that fascist blogger that I mentioned. But here's the thing, I watched the video and he's referring to two people interacting with him. Let me show you. So the video starts with Greg Bavino getting off the plane, right? And then he is immediately followed by someone who starts off camera and then, gets his attention. And he's a little bit skittish. I think that this reaction from him is quite funny. Bavino's stature and attitude changed entirely when he realized that this person was a supporter of his. Bavino looked skeptical until the kid explained to him that he was going to a re-immigration summit in Porto, and then he made this face. I know that this screenshot looks like he's about to sneeze, but he's actually having like a real moment of recognition here. Bavino then goes to shake his hand and asks him for his name again, and he says it's Finn. Then Bavino's new buddy Finn asks for a selfie, and they take one and make sure that it looks okay. Then, I shit you not, Bavino asks Finn if he has anything that he wants him to sign, not the other way around. Finn responds by looking confused about how this interaction is going, but then says, yeah, and then starts to dig through his bag as Bavino goes, oh no, it's an honor, and babbles on about taxpayers. Finn then goes and pulls out 2 baseball caps as well as a Sharpie and gives them to Bavino. And then Bavino goes, how do you want me to sign these? And Finn, once again confused, is like, it doesn't matter. And as Finn is saying that, you can see a guy behind Bavino who is looking at him as he walks by, right? And if you look close, he noticed the camera first, and he's got a nervous hand thing going on. I can't be certain, but I'm pretty sure that he recognized Bavino long before he walked past him. Neither of them really take note of this second guy, and then Finn starts telling Bavino where to sign on the hat. And then right as Bavino's about to sign it, that guy walks back up. And just like with Finn, Bavino looks real uncomfortable for half a second until he figures out this guy's friendly. The guy awkwardly touches Bavino on the shoulder, tells him he loves his work, shakes his hand, and then rapidly walks away while side-glancing at the camera as if he does not want to be seen by it. And once the second guy quickly fucks off, Bavino goes back to signing the hat. He's taking his time. He's, drawing all over this bill, writing a little message for Finn, right? And as he does this, Finn is just standing there silently, starting to look bored. Finn ends up standing there for so long that he feels like he needs to say something, so he just fills the silence with some information about himself and randomly decides to tell us that he's originally from Rhode Island, but now he goes to school in South Carolina. So, thanks for the unsolicited information about yourself, Finn. He's finally done doodling all over the bill of the first cap. He pulls out the second one from behind the first one, and he looks a little bit confused. His new buddy Flynn seems to notice and actually apologizes to Bavino and says, I'm sorry, there's not as much room on that one. Then Bavino is like, can I, draw above the bill? And he's like, no, please sign on the bill. And then Bavino is like, okay, bet, and signs his name all over the front of the bill, so, like, there's no more room left for anyone else to sign it after this. He even goes in and writes a whole second line of text to make sure there's just not any room for anyone else, right? And because it was taking Bavino absolutely forever to write, like, a paragraph on this guy's second hat, he got a little bored and started talking about himself, and Finn told us a couple more things. Just to recap for those of you playing along at home, Finn has so far told us his first name, told us that he's going to Porto in Portugal for the Re-Immigration Summit, and he's told us that he was born in Rhode Island but now goes to school in South Carolina. When randomly saying where he was from and where he goes to college didn't really get a response from Bavino, he started grabbing for straws, right? And next he was like, have you heard about that conference that I mentioned in Portugal that I'm going to? And Bavino was like, oh yes, I have. I think that it's great that you're going, and is about to keep talking, and then Finn cuts him off and is like, I'm going with the delegation. You can tell at this point that Bavino had just wanted to, like, say some of his propaganda and, like, be done with this, but now the kid is talking to him, so he's like, oh, okay, how many people are in your delegation? And Finn is just all too excited to talk about himself and his friends and his plans for this conference. He's like, there's 5 of us, and I have this friend named Carter, and then Bavino cuts him off a little bit, and then he cuts Bavino back off and starts listing the, like, groups of fascists from different countries that he's gonna have dinner with while he's there. He mentions that they're gonna have dinner with Irish and Dutch and Spanish nationalists. Like, they have this whole thing planned. Their little delegation does, right? And right as Finn is starting to get really excited about telling Bavino about what he's planning to do at this conference, Bavino's like, oh, well, that's nice. And you can just tell that Bavino is just kind of done with this conversation and doesn't know where to take it, especially in front of a camera. So he's just like, okay, well, you finish up your schooling and you should join the army. They need people like you. And then he awkwardly points at him and says, hey, you might be seeing me sooner than you might think. Then his new little buddy Finn scuttles off to go to the Nazi conference. And then the video ends with Bavino awkwardly picking up his stuff and walking away as he says, all right, to himself in an awkward voice. This video was hella awkward, but I broke it down for you bit by bit because there's a lot of information in it and it happened pretty quickly. And if you really break this conversation down and think about it, you don't actually have to know about the ReSum 26 conference in Porto already to know that it seems like Greg Bavino might actually be going there. And this is how anti-fascists were tipped off early, you know? There were a number of us who weren't really surprised when the next morning it was announced on ReSum 26's Twitter account that Greg Bavino would be the guest speaker today, right? Because we watched this video, we know who Greg is, and we were like, that doesn't seem right. After watching this, it puts that tweet I gave you context about into even further context, huh? He and his new buddy Finn probably sat next to each other on that plane. The jury is still out on whether or not the second guy who came up and shook his hand was, going to the same conference or not. So there were also a couple other things that I noticed that I didn't tell you about yet. Let's go over those now. You see this hat right here? Do you see where it says NJF on the back? That's a Nick Fuentes hat. Here's the same shitty $50 hat in white, but you get the idea. So as soon as Finn handed his hat over to this guy, he told anti-fascists like myself who see that and know what it is, who he's associated with. Bonus points for you if you're playing along at home and you notice that too. And even more bonus points for you if you're playing along at home and you notice that there is a patch on the back of his backpack with some writing under it that says, oh, what's that? The college? Track and field cross country? It's like Finn also accidentally told us where he goes to school and what sport he plays, huh? And wouldn't you know it, there's only one person named Finn on the College of Charleston's cross-country team that was born in Rhode Island and now goes to school there. And might I say, wowee, he offered up a lot of information about himself in this bio section. Like, crazy. Normally you, like, list your hobbies and shit. I mean, I get the turtles thing, but alright, I guess, buddy. And this is where we get to the quick disclaimer part of my video. I do not condone anyone going after or harassing him. What I do condone is spreading the information that this person is a potentially harmful and toxic individual because he is going to a literal neo-Nazi conference with Greg fucking Bavino, okay? I'm also going to add I can't share the proof of it, so you don't have to believe this part if you don't want to, but proof was found that he's part of another Nazi group as well. That was not my find, so that is not mine to share. So, I don't know, keep your eyes peeled for that because someone might be sharing it sometime soon. And also, please consider that after doing this, he got on a really long flight down to Porto in Portugal, which is plenty of time to archive some of his social media and stuff before he locked it down. You can go looking for it. He has locked it down, but people found it first. Handful of people who are still watching, thank you, and I hope that you enjoyed my little breakdown of that video and all of the information that I was able to glean from it. I hope that it serves as an example to you that there are people who will watch you with just as critical of an eye if you ever find yourself on camera, so keep that in mind too. Anyway, you know how about 10 minutes ago I asked you to put a pin in Bavino's comment about the silent majority? I think it's about time to come back around to that. Here's that tweet again to jog your memory. He says, people stopping me left and right, shaking my hand and thanking me for the work. I want to be clear. 2 people stopped him. You know how many people were in that airport? Go back and look at all those photos and look at all the people in them, and then take just a little closer look to the people in the background of those photos and tell me what the actual silent majority thinks. And those were just a couple of the people who side-eyed and sneered at him during that video. But an extremely self-absorbed Nazi like Greg Bavino wouldn't notice that, would he? He would only notice the 2 out of many people who came to interact with him. And he would have so little self-awareness that he didn't notice how awkward that whole interaction was with both of them. Anyway, the reason that I broke all of that down for you and then outed Finn as a Nazi was so that you understand this is quite literally a Nazi rally. He was listing off a plan to go to dinner with nationalists from other countries. They are networking. That is super important to know, because power lies in networks, okay? Like that is just a fact. And I think that that's something that everyone should also take away from this. So yeah, I might make fun of them because they're awkward, but this is still not a good thing, guys. The re-immigration idea is just a rebranding of mass deportations and extreme nationalism. And this re-immigration summit being held in Portugal, in a historically anti-fascist fucking city, which is upsetting in and of itself, right? Well, it's the second one. There was also one last year in Europe. And this video has also gotten like so fucking long that I'm about to cut it off in a minute here, but that's something we'll have to go over after the conference, and with little clips and things of what they said last year, what they said this year, because these really are the worst of the worst kind of people getting together and internationally networking. They're doing the thing that they are claiming anti-fascists are doing. And I can guarantee you that while occasionally some of us might chat online, we are not doing this to the degree that they are. It's just a fact. And also, we're not an organization. We're just people with social media accounts. They are actual organizations of people with agendas who are trying to harm people. Like you literally just heard Finn be excited about his little stupid fucking delegation and all the fascists he's about to meet. And while Greg Bavino may not be the head of ICE anymore, right, he's still out there actively creating and pushing propaganda, and he is now mask off white supremacist neo-Nazi about it, right? Like at this point, almost 19 minutes in, do I really need to share information like this about the people that he's going to share the stage with for you to know that he's a fucking Nazi who's going to a Nazi conference with other Nazis? It's not that I'm going to sit here and say, trust me, bro, but like, I'm not going to spend hours, like it took hours to edit all this together, by the way. I'm not going to spend more hours editing something together if people aren't going to listen to it. Like I'm already deep in the archives with Christian and Protestant fucking violence right now. I just realized that like no one is fucking talking about this, so I felt like I had to say something. But if you're still listening and you want more information on the speakers and shit, I will do a follow-up video, but you have to leave me a comment telling me you want to see that. Okay, to those who are still here, please get yourself a snack, drink some water, go touch some grass, and enjoy part of your day, because these Nazis are not going to win. It's just going to be a hell of a fight. Okay, I love you. Take care of yourselves. Till next time. Bye-bye.